Up next, may I invite Bruce Huang, Product Manager, Mobile Devices Group, Mozilla. He will talk about Firefox OS, beyond the smartphone. Bruce, please.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So I just wanted to point out that our Fox used to be really slender, and now that we've compressed it to 4x3, it actually looks kind of cute. It's not working. So today I'm going to talk a bit about, let me introduce myself first. My name is Bruce Huang. I'm a product manager for Firefox OS and based out of the Taipei office. I work in the mobile devices group, so what we actually do is we work a lot with a lot of OEMs or hardware manufacturers that if they have questions on porting Firefox OS to their specific hardware, then the engineers and us at the Taipei team, we help them get started on their port. So today I'm going to talk a bit about, I'll give a brief intro on Firefox OS, and I'm going to talk a bit more about the things that you don't really see in a lot of the blog posts and the news on the Firefox OS, which is where Firefox OS can go beyond smartphones, so other kinds of form factors and hardware. So just a brief intro. So at Mozilla, we really believe that we want openness, opportunity, and innovation for the web. We want web developers to have an equal footing, to be able to have the same access to APIs that all other native applications have on proprietary platforms. We started doing that with the desktop, and we wanted to move to mobile. So last year, what we did was we introduced Firefox OS. So a brief intro of Firefox OS. We built it completely on open web technologies. So what that means is actually we expanded the Firefox Gecko web rendering engine into the mobile OS. And all the UI that the user uses on a smartphone is actually built in with open web standards. We use HTML5 to build all the UI. And we don't have any special APIs that any other web developers can't use. So we're completely open source, like all Mozilla projects. So what's actually really interesting is the partners that we work with. There are actually some operator partners that come in, and they're able to create an experience that they want, completely without restrictions from Mozilla. There are some partners that come in and they actually introduce new software features, like they're able to monitor the data usage of users. So you can check out how much mobile data you're using and then be able to see the display on the device. And from a user experience point of view, it's actually like all other smartphones that you're currently familiar with, either with Android or iOS. So I'm not really going to go into the details of that much, but there are a few things that we did introduce. So we did introduce something like what we call the app-based content search. So what we do is directly on the home screen of your smartphone, we have a search bar. And you can type in any term you want to look for. So in this case, we're looking at pizza. And normally when you search, it's either two ways. You either search through Google or through a search engine for a web page or for any content involving that term. Or you search through an app store, where you search for an application that has this name. But what we did with the adaptive app search is you can actually, what the search actually gives you is it gives you options that are actually web applications that will help you consume the content. So in terms of pizza, you can look into Yelp, where they'll give you recommendations for local pizza places or any tweets about pizza. And so you'll be able to find exactly what you want. And you can actually access these applications directly. You don't have to download and install any applications. If you choose to do so after using these applications, you'll be able to just long press on the icon and save it directly to your home screen. So it becomes a web application that you can access at any time. All the applications that you see here, they'll also be available on our Firefox Marketplace, which is available on the desktop browser and on Firefox OS devices. So one of the big factors for Firefox OS is that for developers to develop on Firefox OS, there's no new language or new framework that you have to learn. All web developers are already Firefox OS developers. We did introduce new APIs into Firefox OS, but so things like accessing the battery level of a device or the vibration motor on a device. These are new features that we introduce, but any new APIs that we introduce, we work to get them standardized. So developers don't have to worry that their applications can only work on Firefox OS. So as maybe some of you will know, that our API, any of our feature implementation, which includes API definition, is completely out in the open. So developers do have a lot of influence on how our APIs get defined. And because we do work with open standards, we really are the ultimate in app portability. The developers don't have to worry about making a port for Android, making a port for iOS, making a port for the PC. As long as the device is HTML5 compatible, then their applications should be able to run. So last year was really exciting for us. I guess some of you may have seen in the news that we have launched devices globally. The markets we've launched in are mostly we're initially targeting emerging markets. So we have launched in certain countries in Europe and in Latin America, and we're hoping to expand this year. So these are some of the devices that you'll see. They're actually rather mid to low end right now because we're trying to get as many, in emerging markets, it's actually, it's a configuration that smartphones have not, users at this price point don't really have access to a lot of smartphone features. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit the feature phone price point, but allow users to have smartphone features so they'll be able to get on the web and then experience all the web has to offer. So talking about what's next for Firefox OS. I'm not really going to go into where smartphones will go because it will go to different price. We're hoping to attack different price points and different regions. But today I really want to talk about where the OS can go beyond smartphones to different form factors. So with Firefox OS and with the web as a platform, we kind of demonstrated where the platform can go with smartphones. And so moving on, we want to look at different form factors. So tablets are already a super common form factor for users to consume web content. Many, like Android and iOS, both have moved to tablets, and it's really common for, the experience is very similar and very familiar to most users. So the tablet experience is really similar to a smartphone, but there is actually a lot of minor tweaks that you'll have to do to your application. So for example, these are some of the applications that we already have native to Firefox OS, but as you can see, so things like the settings or the gallery, we changed them to have to be 2 panels instead of 1, so that users can make use of the larger screen real estate. So on Firefox OS at Mozilla, what we did is we laid the groundwork for this kind of UI. So the applications can naturally expand, but each application developer will have to come in and expand their application to use the UI. But we wanted to get as many developers involved in working on actual tablet hardware as soon as possible. So this year what we did was introduce the Tablet Contribution Program. And it's a program where users sign up and they can get involved in early development and testing and even localization in regions where we haven't shipped yet. And they'll be able to work with Mozilla to define tablet features and any of the future roadmap of where the tablet can go. We have all the news for the Tablet Contribution Program at hacks.mozilla.org. And I believe the initial sign up, the initial application run ended, but we do have another one coming up. So for the Tablet Contribution Program, we introduced two new tablet form factors. So we have the Foxconn 10-inch tablet, which is it's actually a pretty powerful piece of hardware. It's a quad-core CPU. It has all the connectivity options like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it's a 16 gigabytes of storage. And the smaller form factor we have is a 7-inch VIA tablet. It's a dual-core CPU. It has all the connectivity options. And one of the new things it has is it has HDMI output, so developers can actually see how their applications will look with a multi-screen factor. So participating in the Tablet Contribution Program, the contributors actually get access to the actual hardware. So do look on hacks.mozilla.org for upcoming news on the program. So beyond tablets, there's just a bigger screen size that we're actually looking at, which is smart TVs. Now, why smart TVs? I'm not sure if many of you already have smart TVs in your homes, and if you look at smart TVs, with TVs in general, the hardware features are reaching a certain level of feature parity. So many TV manufacturers are adding new features, such as YouTube or Hulu or Netflix. These software services that help them differentiate. But me personally, when you use the applications, they're actual web applications, but some of them are sometimes clunky or they look different for each manufacturer. So what we're hoping is, with Firefox OS, if we standardize the UI, standardize the experience across TVs, so we can allow these application developers that already offer services on TV to standardize, so they don't have to worry about developing one application for one TV manufacturer and another for a separate one. And so what we did was we actually worked with Panasonic to develop their next generation of smart TVs. So they're working on their smart TVs running Firefox OS. Now, the UI that you see over here is an example of the current smart TVs that Panasonic has. So it's a really complicated UI. Like the biggest box you see on the top left is the current TV show that you're watching, and they have a bunch of services in blocks. And a lot of these are already web services, but what Panasonic had to do is they had to implement these applications themselves with APIs they have to maintain it, and it's not a standard application from that developer. So with Firefox OS, what we're hoping is developers can come in and actually develop the applications for those blocks. And they'll be able to do it once and hopefully run it on every TV that is HTML5 compliant. And with more developers and with the standardized APIs that we're hoping to offer, maybe eventually that users will be able to connect smartphones or other devices to their TVs. So when we worked with Panasonic on televisions, what we're learning is that there's a bunch of hardware that's already standard across televisions. And so similarly to what we did on smartphones, where we enabled standard web APIs for web developers to access phone hardware, what we're working on doing now is we're hoping to standardize the TV hardware as well. So once we open up APIs for that, then web developers will be able to come in and then they'll be able to work with any TV manufacturer. So right now we've talked about smartphones, tablets, and TVs, which are very set form factors that are determined by whatever hardware manufacturer that you got your device from. But with current cloud computing, with all the information on the web, there's actually very little processing power that you actually need on your device. So with Firefox OS, it actually opens up possibilities for really small devices connected to any display in your home to turn it into a smart display. So one of the examples that we've actually been seeing is something like the APC. The APC is actually it's a really small single board CPU. It has external ports for HDMI and for keyboard and mouse and Ethernet. And it's actually extremely small. It's about about half the size of a hardcover book. And APC, it was designed with the idea that the computer is just a tool for you to connect to the internet. And so with that in mind, that's how they were able to shrink the size and the power draw. What's really exciting about APC is the model that they use to enable the hardware. So when APC first started, they actually started with Firefox OS without any Mozilla involvement. They took the open source code, and they started with a bunch of hardware that Firefox OS didn't actually support yet. And what they did was they leveraged the community. To help bring up a lot of software features. So things like the USB keyboard and the USB mouse and Ethernet access or HDMI output, these are things that Firefox OS actually didn't support before. But what APC was able to do is they leveraged the Mozilla community and the open source community in general to get these new features accelerated. And what that does is it actually helps Mozilla because the open source efforts can actually contribute back into Mozilla, into Firefox OS. So a few of these examples of the partners that Mozilla worked with, I think the common thing between these hardware partners is that these are all fields that Mozilla did not really previously have access to. But because each partner came in and brought the expertise from their specific field, they were able to really accelerate development and help us expand the ecosystem of Firefox OS and for the web as a platform. So we're hoping that a similar model can work for expanded even more. So we can maybe go to wearables, or even to automotive, or to the connected home. What we're hoping to do is with these hardware partners and with the web as the common platform, we'll be able to standardize APIs, so developers don't have to worry about proprietary hardware or specific protocols that they have to figure out. And so once we do standardize that, we have the web as the connected ecosystem. So perhaps it'll be possible for developers to develop for their smartphone, and they'll be able to connect it to their car system through a standard API, and they don't have to worry about the make of the car or their specific phone. And so that's a few of the things that we're hoping to work with at Mozilla, and we're hoping that Firefox OS will be able to really expand the opportunity for the web as a platform. So that's all I had for today. Thank you very much.